me and Steve had a meeting. That was the last time we met Owen. We met with him really to try and see if we could broker a deal between him and Latvia, and suggested he went to Riga, and he said he wouldn't go to Riga. Of course he since has, but he wouldn't do then. But there was people knocking around at the time who were effectively acted as the middlemen for organising these loans. And the most I've been able to find out is that there was somebody there. It doesn't appear to be somebody whose name we've heard before. And he seems to be representing two stockbrokers who, in principle, are prepared to loan Owen some money. How much, whether it's the whole amount, or whether it's a proportion of it, I don't know. The suggestion is it's the usual eye-watering interest rates that would beg the question: how would the monthly instalments under that loan and the existing 5 million then be paid? Because simple maths tells you that if the interest rate is 10%, and I have a funny feeling it's higher than that, but let's say it's 10%, then that on a total of 30 million, assuming the five that's already charged against Travelodge is refinanced as part of it, that's 3 million a year, which is £250 a month, on top of the 2.5 million or thereabouts losses that are currently having to be funded because of not a penny more and whatever else. So that's a huge sum of money to find, effectively £400,000 to £500,000 every single month, with little, and you can't say, well, you've got the Blackpool income streams, because the 2.5 is after all the Blackpool income streams are taken into account. That's the loss that Blackpool suffered last year. You can't see how it can be done. And then you've got the questions that you're lending to somebody who, of his age, and with everything else that's out there in the public domain. So I don't know. We are speculating. Rather frustratingly, Latvia are tight-lipped, and the tight-lipped because they say they've promised Owen that they would preserve confidentiality in relation to what was discussed for, well, most certainly for 14 days, which expires next week. So what our usual ability, perhaps to get a little bit more information, has been hampered by the fact that they are standing by that promise. I do think we can expect to hear something next week, and I think when we look at why is Valeri giving him that time, anybody who's met Valeri will know he's actually a very nice guy, and I suspect I'm guessing Owen pleaded for the time. I'm guessing he pleaded for the time, and I think Valeri's probably thought 14 days isn't unreasonable. In fact, I think my understanding is he gave him longer than Owen actually asked for. So maybe Owen asked for a week, and he gave him 2. We are 3-4 days away from the expiry of that 14-day time limit. I am reasonably certain that we'll hear something from Latvia at some point next week. There's been some suggestion from people in the club that they think this development's afoot. We can only hope that those that are in the best interest of Blackpool fans, all the people here and all the other people who are patiently waiting for developments. We have, of course, had some encouraging noises from Normans who, the day after I think it was the day after, or 2 days after the meeting with Valeri and Owen, answered 3 random questions that ABFTT had thrown at him. I don't actually know who sent those questions in, because they apparently went in unreferenced. Didn't say it was from anybody in particular. Normally that's Robbie to find out, but obviously Robbie was in hospital, so he couldn't do that. But he answered those questions, and I think most people have probably sort of seen the answers, but he talks about changing the management, and he doesn't say ownership actually, but he says the management of the football club is inevitable. The meeting was positive, and that we need to be patient, but my patience is wearing thin, as everybody else is presumably in this room, but nevertheless, going through that auction process will take a long time, and if there's a route to a solution that avoids that, which I actually think is part of the Latvian strategy, not to actually take them to auction, as I said before, but to create a situation where Owen feels there's no alternative but to play on their terms, then that will be in our best interest. So I think I've covered everything that I wanted to say, I've literally, I know more than that, because I said unusual, we can normally get something from somewhere. I know that Matt Scrafton has also tried, haven't you, and there's literally almost like there's a wall of silence around what's going on at the moment, and I take some encouragement from that, because that does suggest that there's something fairly significant going to happen, where normally you can get something. There's always somebody who knows something, and you can then build a jigsaw. But on this occasion, who went to Latvia seems to be a state secret, and other than Natalie and Owen, and why they got that 14-day extension is also subject to confidentiality. So I think that's it from me, and I'm happy to take as many questions as it takes. I know there's so much misinformation going around there as well, and if we can try and clear some of that up, I'm more than happy to do it.
Can I just put one question to you? On a Facebook, just use this mic.
On a Facebook page, I said that Owen was not to have any direct contact with the Latvian. He's got to go through his solicitors. That's what Judge Marcus Smith said, yeah? That's what we were told and were published on Twitter and on Facebook. Is he not in breach of his order from Marcus Smith if he's contacted directly, if he's been ordered already not to contact them? Because it's clearly stated on a Twitter page, I can send you over because I've got my friends list, that he's not to have no direct contact, yeah? He can only go through his legal team. Because this is why I've come down today, because at the end of the day, he's flew to obviously Frankfurt, then on to Latvia, but he's not allowed direct contact with him. It's only through his representative.
If I deal with the two scenarios is that's not right. I'll be honest, I don't think that's right, and I have not seen where that is. So, bear in mind, I've proofread every one of the Justice for Fans notes before they've been published. Not that I haven't done them, because I think I did one of the 23 days, but I have proofread every one. I don't ever remember seeing that. I'm not saying it isn't there, but I don't remember it. So either that's not right, but if it is, hypothetically, if it is right, then clearly Valeri's in a position to say, notwithstanding that, you can still come to see me. I do know there was no lawyers there, so there was no lawyers at this meeting, but Valeri saw him, so the parties have always got the ability, whatever an order says, the parties have always got the ability to vary it. They don't necessarily have to go back to the judge, and if there were an order like that, it would probably say, unless otherwise agreed. So it would say, Owen cannot do this, that and the other, unless otherwise agreed. But it's news to me that it's in there, I've not seen it. So, but the reality is they've met. It seems to have been in a positive atmosphere from what Norman said on AVFTT, and that's still on the homepage. Everybody wants to look at it. Not a lot, but it's there on the homepage still. And maybe sometimes we read too much into what's said. But the overall comments that Norman does make is in a positive tone, and there's no reason for him to answer those questions and put a positive slant on it unless there's a purpose behind it. And the purpose behind it really is to try and reassure. Well, I'd like to think it's to try and reassure us that there are moves afoot to sort things out. So.
Sorry, it's probably more of just a point. I know the committee always take great pains to try and inform people who might be interested in buying assets that the funds will not return while Oystons have anything to do with that. Just think we need to reiterate to them, get it out there again to all these people, these stockbrokers, moneymen, whatever they are, that if there's even a sniff of Oystons being still involved, the vast majority of funds that are boycotted will not return. And I think it's just a point we need to keep hitting home at.
I think the only one who has, who I might be corrected if I'm wrong here, but the only interested party in the football club who hasn't been in touch with BST in one shape or form is V Sports. And I have my suspicions that V Sports were just, I think, were a stalking horse for their interest in the club. It was the way they approached that, to me, was just too public. You know, if you're going to make an offer, you do it privately. You don't go to newspapers and say that you want to publicise it. That's just my view, and it might be wrong. I don't think V Sports, I don't think it was a representative of V Sports that went to Riga. I can't really say why I think that, because I might be breaching somebody's confidentiality, but I don't believe it. I believe it's more likely it was this broker who is potentially prepared to organise access to money if Owen wants it. But Owen's turned down the opportunity to borrow this money in the past, and he's turned down the opportunity because he knows he cannot service the payments. It's all right people saying, well, he's 85 and he'll worry about that, you know, but he's got to pay monthly. We all know what happens if you don't pay your mortgage, and it's exactly the same. You know, if you don't pay your mortgage, they go to court, get an order for sale, and sell the asset from underneath you for whatever they can get for it. So he knows that, and you know, whatever else we think, you know, he's not stupid, and he's not. If he has to find the thick end of £500,000 a month, the only way he can do that, he might do it as a short-term measure. And I think we've got to realise that if he does go ahead and do it, it probably is just to give himself breathing space while he tries to sell assets in an orderly fashion. And I don't think Latvia see that as the end game if he does. In fact, I think they probably prefer it, because if they've got the money and they can see he's struggling, they can come back and make proposals to him that actually will make a lot of commercial sense to Owen. The problem is, as we all know, he's got tunnel vision on this at the moment, and that's where logically you would say deal with Valerio at the sale of the football club and the football stadium. He wants to keep it. You think, you know, it's the fan from the age of 2 mentality, and I'm the best. He thinks he's the best person to save Blackpool Football Club again. Saving Blackpool Football Club from himself.
Can I just go to reassure everybody, anybody that we have spoken to that has shown any interest in Blackpool Football Club at all, that have contacted us, we have made it absolutely abundantly clear, 100%, that the majority of fans will not return while there is any Oyston involvement. We make that so clear, and we include Latvia in that. They know, so I don't know what form of madness you would have to be inflicted with to think about carrying on with Blackpool Football Club with an Oyston still involved. But just so that you're reassured, from our perspective, from a BST perspective, when we are asked, we make it absolutely clear.